This one's wife. And she's gone. Harry had enough. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. I would imagine that some of you, on seeing this video title, thought, has Harry finally taken back his pink pods from this one's wife's handbag? Has he asserted himself and finally escaped the narcissist? No, it isn't that. Instead, it relates to her departure from the This One's Wife games, the Invictus Games, part way through. You'll recall that all of this started last Friday when This One's Wife decided that it was necessary for her to get up on a stage and introduce my husband, injecting herself into the events which have nothing to do with her. She isn't a patron, she just happens to be the +1 of the patron. Nevertheless, her narcissism needing her to control an audience, to draw fuel, the fact that she cannot resist the sight of a microphone, caused her to gabble on, talking about herself and filling the auditorium with her useless observations. Thereafter, in the last 4 days, we have been subjected to multiple appearances of This One's Wife. Bugger the veterans and it being their games. We have been subjected to her various costume changes, seeing her in relation to not wanting to go on stage, learning about the fact that she went to an Indian restaurant, seeing her on the back of a buggy as Huggy and Druggy got driven along past disabled competitors. We saw her manoeuvring a lady in a wheelchair. We've witnessed her waving. We've witnessed her kissing Harry, clamping 2 hands around his head, being the face hugger from Alien. We've seen her putting her head on his shoulder. We've seen the PDAs that have taken place when they were watching their ice hockey. And time again, This One's Wife has ensured that she has been seen, photographed and filmed. She hasn't bothered wearing any of the branded merchandise. At least Harry has put an Invictus jacket on. Oh no, This One's Wife has been seen in at least 3 different puffer jackets, all costing several $1,000s, presumably merched through Invictus. She has ensured that she is seen with rictus grin, and whilst it has provided us with numerous opportunities to analyse her narcissism in action, it, for her, has proven to be a stage. Not just a literal stage where she could appear and talk to the audience, but a stage whereby she is able to manage her facade, is able to assert control, is able to draw fuel. She doesn't give a rat's ass about the event, the competition, or the competitors. They are just a means for getting what she wants. And after the setbacks that she's had in the first month of this year, the ridicule with regard to running on the beach, the clusterfuck that was the trailer for her Netflix series, the incessant ridicule and condemnation that took place in the comment section when Netflix uploaded the trailer to YouTube, her ridiculous video on Instagram about the Billie Eilish merchandise, her grief ghoul behaviour, turning up not once but twice to the LA wildfires. All of that has meant that she has been repeatedly criticised, and therefore her narcissism, and quite possibly subject to PR advice, has sought to utilise the Invictus Games as an opportunity to try and say to the world, I am really nice and me and my husband are loved up and we do have an idyllic marriage. You have to believe me. Many people simply aren't taken in by this, but there are those that have been. And yet, following all of this display, This One's Wife has gone part way through. Yes, as per GB News and Ed Griffiths, the Duchess of Sussex has left the Invictus Games in Canada to return to California, where her 2 children await her arrival, presumably thinking, who's this woman again? This One's Wife has been supporting Prince Harry, well, that's one way of describing it, at the Games for Wounded and Sick Service Personnel in Vancouver and Whistler since Saturday. That isn't an appropriate description in the slightest. What she's been doing is milking it for all it's worth for the purposes of the prime aims. A source is close to the couple confirmed her departure was pre-planned. A source said, "This was always planned. This one's wife is going home to be with her children." Ah, yes. That's what you'd like to spin to us, that the, as a mum, is going back to be a mum. She didn't delay the trip to make milkshakes this time, but she decided to cut it short in order to go back and be with the children. And naturally, we have to be told this. She could have just gone back. Sure, she wouldn't have been seen on the following days. Many people would have gone, "Yippee! She's not around anymore." But she, of course, has to announce that she's going back or that she has gone back. And it has to be announced that it was pre-planned. And it has to be announced that it is to go and see the children. Because this is all part of the facade management. An individual stated, "This is Prince Harry's event." Really? And she is there to support him. Yeah, but this was planned. Accordingly, Harry will remain at the Games until the closing ceremony on Sunday. During their time at the Games, the couple were seen sharing intimate moments, including kisses and hand-holding at various events. The Sussexes attended star-studded performances, yada yada, rhubarb, blah, 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 enjoying pints of beer at the luxury Whistler ski resort, braving temperatures of -11. Ooh, so brave, so stunning. This one's wife has buggered off. Which, of course, means that we're not going to have the opportunity to see yet more rictus grin and death stares and other glitches of her narcissism, but hey, we've had plenty over the last few days, and it'll be interesting to see how Harry now behaves without his handler being there. Will he be pleased to not have her accompanying him? But let's examine this question of this one's wife leaving part way through. As I've explained, she needs to bring attention to the fact that she's done so. But is it the case that she planned to leave part way through, and has she left of her own volition? I doubt that this was pre-planned, and here's why. This is such a good opportunity for her in terms of the opportunity to assert control over millions of people watching and reading what she's doing. After all, she's had 4 days of milking it. And remember, even though there's plenty of criticism about her in the mainstream media, for instance, for moving the lady in the wheelchair and for riding on the back of the golf buggy past disabled competitors, in the moment, it actually has been successful for her. She's received fuel from people clapping and cheering and speaking to her. Her facade has been managed. Yes, there are still plenty of people that look at her with disdain, but there are plenty who have said how lovely it is, and look at them together, how happy they are. So it has served a purpose for her. It's not going to turn around her stinking reputation. It isn't going to cause those that dislike her to suddenly think, do you know what? I've changed my view of her. But what it will do is, or rather what it has done, is has enabled her to assert control in the moments, draw fuel, and manage her facade. It's enabled her to stay at a luxury resort paid for by other people. It's allowed her to purchase clothing paid for by other people. So in that respect, it has been successful for her, and it is that which tells me that this one's wife hasn't pre-planned to depart, because something like this is something that she would want to continue to milk as a narcissist. There are people at events that wave and cheer. It's fuel. Why not keep getting it? There's the opportunity to stay in somewhere expensive, paid for other people, residual benefit. Why not keep doing it? Why not keep waving and putting on the display? She intended to do so. Furthermore, she doesn't care about the children to the extent that you accept that they exist. She has no interest in spending much time with them. She would much rather be free to flaunt her supposed goodness to the world, wander about at events, insert herself in front of the camera, and milk that fuel. It's not a difficult choice for a narcissist of her ilk. Be seen, manage the facade, get freebies, draw a load of fuel in, or go back and have to deal with 2 young children and all of their demands, notwithstanding there's a staff helping. Not a difficult choice. Her narcissism would direct her to stay. Not only does it want her to stay because of the gains that are to be made, it wouldn't want her to leave to go back to children, because what does that provide her with? Sure, some fuel by way of their reactions, but also a demand upon her time in having to attend to them, and all of that isn't going to be seen. Remember, she loves being seen. Therefore, for a narcissist, she would want to stay. Her narcissism would want her to stay, and yet she didn't. I don't believe that she chose to leave because her narcissism wouldn't direct her to do so. It seems to me that she's been told to leave, or she was forced into a position of leaving as a withdrawal from a threat to control. I suspect that Harry had enough of her taking the attention, not because he needs it, but that he is aware of the criticism and has seen that it's performative. And based upon the fact that they've not been seen together for such a long time, and what's likely to be going on by way of the sustained devaluation, naturally he's going to appear happy when she shows him some affection in public, because, first of all, he doesn't want to cause a scene. Many victims of the narcissist don't want that to be the case, and he's also grateful that at least he's not being given a hard time, something many victims of the narcissist want. But behind closed doors, he's likely to be thinking, hang on a second, what's all this about? Why are you treating me nicely all of a sudden? And moreover, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people that you're making this all about you, and that's not going down well. Whilst Harry can be a bell end at times, he is invested in relation to the Invictus Games and its success, and wants to see the service personnel being the ones that are praised. And he'll be told by relevant people that that's not what's happening. Yesterday, I just punched Invictus Games 2025 into Mr. Google. 3 pages came up. 1 was about the games. Everything else was about this one's wife or this one's wife and Harry. Naturally, if I wanted to search further to try and find information about the actual games and the competitors, I would have been able to do so. But a simple search, which doesn't even mention their names, produces a load of material about them. And I suspect that Harry is confused by the sudden change in her behaviour, and is also dismayed by the way that she's been hogging the limelight and taking the attention away from the purpose of the games and the competitors. And therefore, it may well be the case that words were exchanged and he has ordered her to leave, or that they've argued about such, and because he would not back down, her narcissism has caused her to depart. I simply don't see that this one's wife would give up such a golden opportunity as attending these games, in terms of the fuel that she would receive, the adoration that she perceives, the fact that people... I haven't heard anybody, for instance, booing her, and therefore her narcissism would be simply saying, this is great, keep it going, stay, you're getting the freebies, you're getting the fuel, control is easy, this is all good publicity, the facade's being managed, what's not to like? You don't need to run along a beach, you don't need to turn up at the LA wildfires, be here all week, here you are loved, here you are admired, stay. Her narcissism would want that, because it's easy, pure, positive fuel. The alternative is not particularly attractive, to go back to 2 children, and as you know, because she has no emotional empathy or sense of accountability, she'd much rather get around as a celebrity than spend time with them. And therefore, not only is it the case that a narcissist would want to stay, I also think that it means that the only thing that would compel her to leave would be that she's been told she has to go. Do you agree with me? Do you think Harry had enough and basically ordered her to go, or that he acted on advice, or that there was an argument about the fact that she was hogging the limelight and he might not have said to her, you need to go, but because he was critical of her behaviour, that she flounced, that she said, well, if you're going to be like that, I'm going, and thus made arrangements to go back. I simply don't see that her narcissism would allow her to give up such a golden opportunity to attain the prime aims. I think that this is a reaction to either being told that she has to go, or that there was an argument and this is her response in order to nullify the threat to control. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.